Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be taking a look at another user interface modification for Windows. And this one is actually pretty cool. It's called Bump Top Desktop. Now, this was actually made aware to me in a couple of comments from some of you guys actually back on my Cairo video, which was another user interface modification for Windows, and I think even a video before that. But what this is it is a 3D UI replacement for both Windows and Mac OS. There's actually a version of this that works on Mac OS, which is pretty cool. Now, this was initially released, the very first version was made publicly available in the year 2009, but the initial concept, and I was actually very interested to hear about this, it actually was conceived in the year 2006, 3 years before it was released. That is a year after YouTube was launched. That is a year before the iPhone was released, and it was first shown publicly that year with a YouTube video, which I will have down below. It's still up on YouTube right now. I'll actually probably put it up in the cards if you guys want to go ahead and actually check it out. But it's a video of the very first version of this project being demonstrated. And what's also pretty cool is there's a point in that video where it's actually shown running on an XP tablet computer that looks identical to one of the ones that I got from a viewer out there named Mitchell that I've showcased in a couple videos on this channel. It's that Toshiba Portage laptop. So this was kind of designed, and one of the unique things about this project that makes it a little bit different than some of these other ones that we've taken a look at is not only is it 3D, but it was also designed for a touch-based interface. Like I said, that video shows it running on a tablet computer, and later versions supported a multi-touch interaction with it. So it actually uses gestures, as you can see from this image right here. And if you go to the website, this is the main site where you can download it from. And so yeah, you can kind of see here all these different gestures that he's doing here to kind of interact with the system. I would actually like to use this interface on like a tablet or something like that. I just don't have a Windows tablet that is a multi-touch tablet that can run Windows at the moment. So we're going to have to just resort to using this on a standard desktop computer. As you can probably also kind of see with the way like that whole top-down view, it basically imitates, and one of the goals of it, and one of the things that the author actually talks about in this TED Talk right here. This is a TED Talk from 2007, and he kind of says that one of the inspirations behind the program was wanting to kind of make computers work a little bit more like your desk. Just kind of the way that you have things laid out on your desk. So that was kind of one of the goals of this program. So it's kind of designed in some ways to imitate a real computer desk with objects. Now, this project was actually kind of short-lived. But that's a good thing, actually, at least for the people who actually created it, because just 1 year later, 1 year after it was initially released, the company was actually bought out by Google. Yes, Google actually bought them out, which is pretty awesome. And when they were bought out by Google sometime after that happened, Bump Technologies, which is the name of the actual company, actually removed Bump Top from the website, so you could no longer download it anymore. Google implemented some of the technologies that were developed by Bump Technologies into Android. So that is actually pretty cool as well, and they talk a little bit more about that on this GitHub page right here. Now, there were two different versions of this program. There was a free version and a paid version, and the activation server, sometime once again after they were acquired by Google, the activation servers were actually shut down, so you could no longer use the paid version. Now, you might be wondering, okay, so then how are we able to actually take a look at it today? Well, that's because back in 2012, about 8 years ago now, Google actually made this project open source. So yes, this is completely open source now, and it is free to download once again. So you can go on here, and they have the free version, like the last version that they made, which is version 2.5. So that is a very, very brief history of this project and kind of how it came to be and what it aimed to do. Now let's actually, let me actually just close out of Firefox here. Let's actually take a look at it. So we are running Windows 7, and the version that we're going to be taking a look at today is, as I said, 2.5. Now this is newer than the version that was demonstrated in both that original YouTube video from 2006 and in the TED Talk given by the author. He was also using, I believe, the same version, or maybe a slightly newer version as what was shown in the original YouTube video. This one right here is completely different. There's been a lot of changes done from that initial release. So you might be wondering why I've got all these icons on the desktop here. That is just so that we can actually that I can actually show you BumpTop in action, because you need to have some icons on your desktop to really use one of the main functionalities of this program, and that is organizing your desktop. So let's just go ahead and launch it right here. So there we go, it launches up, and you can see that we still have access to the start menu and the taskbar, so it does not completely take over everything. So these are all of our shortcuts here. I just kind of have them, you know, thrown around, arranged in various different ways. Now there's a couple different surfaces that you have in this program here. So this one that you're looking down on right now is kind of going to be your main view. This is where you're going to probably launch most of your programs from. Then you also have these walls up here, which you can double click on to actually, you know, change your viewpoint and actually look directly at the wall. So you can also, like if I wanted to drag this icon right here up to the wall and have it be on the wall instead, you could definitely do that. So basically everything on this bottom portion right here and also on the walls can be moved around wherever you want. So there's a lot of customizability there. Now I can even, if I want to zoom in a little bit closer, I can double click on the bottom surface, and now it will actually, this is probably the closest that BumpTop is ever going to look compared to the regular Windows desktop, because right now, aside from the way these icons are arranged, it definitely looks like a standard Windows desktop with a background. But obviously when you double click on that, it will kind of reset to the main view. So you can launch programs just as you would from the Windows desktop. Like if I want to launch Firefox here, I can double click on Firefox and it'll do that nice kind of animation as it's launching the program. So your icons can be kind of moved around, even kind of like thrown around and just kind of placed wherever you want them to be on the desktop. But what's cool is how you actually organize everything. Well, what you can do with this is like group these icons into, they're called stacks in this program, and they basically replace folders. Now folders also, I'll get into this in a minute, do function very similarly to stacks, because I have this folder right here created before that I actually launched the program. But let's say that I want to take all of these shortcuts right here, my pictures, documents, music. Let's take this help document right here, or this help shortcut. Let's take the recycle bin and maybe default programs. What I can do is I can draw a circle around this, and then once this icon comes up right here, I can drag my mouse straight up, and now it has created a pile. Sorry, they're not called stacks, they're called piles. Now if you double click on this pile right here, it will open up in what's called the grid view, and that just gives you basically like a folder. It actually kind of reminds me of Fences, which is a Stardock program that I used to use a lot, which basically let you group icons together in, they were called Fences obviously. So this kind of interface right here kind of reminds me of that. But if you right click on this, you can see right here you've got a ton of different view options. So I can hit fan out, and all of these do have keyboard shortcuts by the way as well. So right now I'm kind of fanning it out, and if I click, I can, you know, open up any one of these. So if I want to open up documents, there you go, and then I can click on this red X once I'm done, and it'll kind of go right back to the pile right there. If I want to move these into a regular Windows folder, I could right click on it and click on Folderize. It's obviously not going to be able to work since I've got the recycle bin in there, so we're just going to say no, because it was going to have me break the pile. Now breaking the pile just separates everything and it takes it out of the pile, but once again, to remake it, I just got to drag a circle around them, drag up, and then it creates a pile right there. So it's just kind of designed to give you a different way to kind of manage all your icons. And like I said, all of these do have keyboard shortcuts, and also like with double clicking and using the scroll wheel, they do have mouse shortcuts as well. So what I can do is, if I don't want to double click on this to see what's in here, I can mouse over it and then start using the scroll wheel, and I can get access to all of the various icons in there. So if I wanted to launch default programs, which is at the bottom, I can just mouse over it, scroll, and then launch default programs right there, and there you go. So this is probably like your quickest way to launch these programs using the least amount of clicks possible, because you're just going up here, using the scroll wheel to get to whatever item you want, and then just double click on it, and then you actually launch it. Now one of the other cool things that you can do is, and this is kind of going back to the desk analogy, is, you know, you probably have some things on your desk that are larger than other things. So what you can do is actually change the size of every single thing here to whatever size that you want, and that kind of is going to be a way to signify what's most important or what is most used. So for example, I use my browser a lot. So for Firefox here, let's say that I want to make this larger. Well, what I can do is right click on it and click on grow, or I can press Control G, because once again, everything has a keyboard shortcut. So I can press grow, I can press Control G to make it super large if I want to, even to the point where it just is like obnoxiously large. And you know, you can have this wherever you want. I would probably not want to have it this large, so Control S is going to shrink it there. So I mean, this right here, this is much larger than all these other icons, so it kind of signifies to the user that that's a more important item. So you would probably want to have like your browser, you might want to have like, let's go ahead and set the browser up here. You might want to have maybe my computer. We can kind of, you know, grow this a little bit. Maybe not have it as large as Firefox, but maybe larger than all these other icons here. And let's say you maybe want to have them in like the center of the screen. You can maybe have Firefox right here, have the computer here, have your stack of, let's say this was your most commonly used items here, and then maybe have Microsoft Word. Of course, is like a super old version of it, but so yeah, so these are kind of your, let's say your most used programs. And if you use Word a lot, you could maybe make this a little bit larger, maybe as large as Firefox. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to actually customize this. Now, one of the other things that you can do is, even with these different sized items, is you can make piles with them as well. So if I want to make a pile with all these items here, I can do that, and you can see that the size of the icons still takes effect. So you can see that Firefox and Word are these two gigantic icons, and then you've got my computer and the music folder right there as much smaller items in there. But I can again go over to it, I can scroll on it, and I can get access to all of these items. Now, another cool thing that you can do is, as I was saying before, you can drag anything in this interface around to wherever you want. So if I wanted Internet Explorer maybe to be on this side wall, I could drag it up there, and then Internet Explorer will be pinned right there. And you can also do this with widgets as well. So BumpTop comes with a couple of different widgets. There's a note widget over here. There is a Facebook widget right here, which unfortunately does not work anymore, because you can click on login here, and it attempts to load the Facebook login page, but it is not successful at that. You also have over here, you've got a Twitter widget and an email widget as well. So with the note widget, if I want to drag this down to my center area here, I can double click on it to create a new note. And it's got this default text in here, which actually changes depending on each note that you make. So right now it says read a book. I could create a new one, and it says clean up my desktop. But let's say for this one here, I want to double click on this to modify it. And let's say that I want to remind myself to edit this video. So I can do that and then click out of that, and now the actual widget right here itself will change. So now it says edit this video, and just like with these other items, I can change the size of this. So if I want this to be super important, I could kind of have it be gigantic up here. And you can also put this into a pile as well. So if I want to move this note into this pile right here, you could do that. Let's go ahead and fan this out, because I want to go ahead and pull this note out of here, so I can hit remove from pile, and now the note is going to be out of the pile. You also have this nice widget right here called send to printer, and this is basically if you have something that you want to print, you can literally just drag it up to the printer icon, and then it will say, do you want to print these files on your default printer? We're going to say no, because I don't have that properly set up. But if you had like a text document, for example, I could drag this up to the printer, and then I could say yes, I want to print that. So that's just a way to kind of easily drag and drop something, and then actually perform a pretty useful action with it. You also have, if I double click on the wall right here, this right here is actually a frame which you can put a picture or a slideshow in. So you can again make this super large if you want to. So what I could do is go to more here and then click on change photo frame, and I could actually specify a location. I could also choose a Flickr tag. This doesn't appear to work. I assume this is going to basically take randomized photos from Flickr depending on what tag that you put here. So for example, I put sunset in here, and it should, if it was working properly, attempt to pull you know, sunset images or images that are tagged sunset on Flickr, but I don't think that's really working here. Your last option, if we go to change photo frame, is to get a photo RSS feed from Flickr or Picasso Web. Yeah, and this is kind of showing its age right there. Now there's also another widget which unfortunately doesn't work anymore, and that is the sharing widget. So if you right click anywhere on the desktop and go to this widgets menu, you're going to actually get a list of all of the widgets that are currently enabled. So you could also disable some of these. So let's say for email, maybe you don't use that one. You could uncheck that and you see it just kind of fall off the wall right there. But we can enable the sharing one. And this is actually pretty cool because what it did, it doesn't work anymore because once again the actual server that hosted this is not up anymore. But you could drag any file onto this and upload it. It will then upload it to their servers, and then it would give you a link to directly share that file with somebody else. But you see, it doesn't actually work. So if you were comfortable with uploading whatever file it was to their server, this gives you a very easy way to literally just drag and drop something, get the link, and then share it with whoever you were going to share it with. But of course, you would have to be comfortable with having this be on their server. But you can also actually create piles based on a couple different parameters. So you could pile by type or pile by time. So if I hit pile by type, it'll first come up with a warning and say, this will sort and move all icons on the desktop. Do you want to continue? And if I say yes, now what it's going to do is pile everything up by the type that it is. So you've got your shortcuts here, you've got miscellaneous items here, you've got your sticky notes here, and then you have your system icons over here. You can see the recycle bin is obviously separate because this is something that you can drag stuff to. And yeah, by the way, if I want to get rid of one of these shortcuts, say this one right here, just like on the desktop, I can drag it to the recycle bin. It'll come up with the same standard Windows dialog, and I can say, yes, I want to delete that shortcut, and there you go. Now let me actually show you some of the settings that you can modify by right-clicking on the desktop, clicking on More, and then going to BumpTop Settings. So this is the main configuration window for BumpTop. Now, one of the things that you guys, if you watch the original video, of the very first version of BumpTop, one of the things that you're probably going to see is that when you drag the icons around, they can kind of bump into each other and then kind of basically interact with each other. And larger items will not be able to really be bumped as easily by smaller items. And you guys have probably noticed that none of that has been happening in this version right here. I've been trying to go through this settings menu off camera to kind of figure out how to enable that, and I'm wondering if it's honestly a version or a feature that was available only in the Pro version. I can't tell because if you try to go to this comparison chart, and we'll just go ahead and not update Firefox, it just spits out a 404 error because it tries to go to bumptop.com/pro and then this whole string of text here. So basically every link in this program is either going to redirect you to the main BumpTop website, or it's going to say that it couldn't navigate to this page. But I mean, I've gone under icons and physics, I've enabled both of these items right here. They don't really talk about bumping anything. All these settings in here don't really pertain to the actual bumping. You can obviously still kind of throw icons around and kind of mess with them that way, but you just can't like bump this into another icon to kind of make them both move around. So I don't know if that was in the demo kind of just a proof of concept type thing, or if that was an original feature in the first version. Under visuals here, you have a decent amount of visual modifications that you can do. You can also go to themes here, and there are a couple of different themes that are included. So you could go to the BumpTop Classic theme, for example, hit apply, and you can see that it kind of changes the interface of the program a little bit. So we go to Bumped Next is another theme here, hit apply, and there you go. You can also change what wallpapers are used on the floor and all of the walls here. So if I wanted to change the floor wallpaper to something else, if I had like an image file that I wanted to use, you could select that. Or you could just say, use my Windows background as the floor, hit apply, and now it will just take my desktop background, which in this case is the default Windows 7 background, and make that the floor. Now obviously, since BumpTop has kind of taken over your desktop here, when you right click to get to the context menu like you would normally do, you obviously don't have that anymore because it's been replaced with this new interface. So when you go to more here, you also have some other options that have been moved over here kind of from the regular right click context menu. So things like changing your screen resolution, getting access to your gadgets, or opening up the personalized properties have been moved down here. So you can still get access to them. Like if I wanted to click on personalize, change the theme, for Windows, there you go. You also have some shortcuts to open a command prompt window or open an Explorer window. Now, one thing that I also want to touch on is how folders behave, because folders behave very similarly to piles in BumpTop right here. And that's basically because when I open up this folder right here, you can see it gives me the exact same interface as if I were to go into this pile and click on the grid view. It's going to give me the exact same interface. It's also treated as a pile in the sense that if I right click on it and click on break pile, it will break the items out of the folder and then completely get rid of the folder. So that is how the folders actually function. So you can create piles by doing this gesture right here. If you want to create a folder, you can right click on the desktop, go to more, and then you can click on new folder right here and then create a brand new folder. I could rename this if I want to, so we can go to more, click on rename. So let's say I want to name this new folder 3. There you go. And then you could also, if I had like these items right here selected and then inside of the folder, and since this is actually changing the location of these items on the system, because keep in mind that when you're moving things into a pile, you're not changing the physical location of them on your hard drive. Since we are doing that in this case, it will ask you, are you sure you want to move these files to new folder 3? We'll click on yes, and now it will actually physically move those items or shortcuts or whatever into the folder, which is a new location, which is exactly how a folder normally functions in Windows. But what you can do is right click on it and click on expand to pile, and this will, it does not get rid of the folder, but it will kind of give you the pile interface where you can kind of scroll through the items and all of that, but it still functions like a folder, and that is indicated by, if we go to the grid here, this icon up here, which this one does not have. You see, if we go into this one here, you see we do not have the little folder icon up here. So this still, if I right click on it and go to break pile, it will ask me, are you sure you want to move the items from the folder onto the desktop? We'll click break pile, and now they will be back on the desktop. But there you have it, guys. That is an in-depth look at Bump Top Desktop. Honestly, a pretty unique desktop user interface modification for Windows and Mac OS. If you guys enjoyed this video and if you want to see more like it, definitely be sure to give this one a thumbs up. Be sure to get subscribed down below and turn on those channel notifications if you haven't already to get notified whenever that I upload a new video, which I do every single week, actually multiple times a week on this channel. And if you guys have any comments or questions or maybe even video suggestions for me, be sure to leave those down below, as those definitely do help with future video ideas, and I always enjoy reading what you guys have to say about these videos. And as always, guys, I just want to thank you all so much for watching and for your continued support here on this channel, and I will see you all in the next video.